Insights channel, Steve here, and today I've been reading in my latest book, Secrets of ENOCH Insights. I've been reading chapter 42 and chapter 33, and I got really inspired reading these chapters, and I thought I would tell you some secrets related to this, some secrets of things that have happened to me personally and to my wife. And I want to explain that my wife had a very, very serious accident 9 years ago. She fell out the attic, off the attic stairs, fell backwards like 4 meters, hit the back of her head on the top of the banister. And unfortunately, she hasn't recovered since then. And for 3 years, she took hyperbaric oxygen in the MS Center, hyperbaric oxygen chamber. But then because of COVID, we stopped taking the hyperbaric oxygen for about 4 years. And in the meantime, she's been taking just oxygen bottles, which has been helpful. But we also found out that it doesn't compare with hyperbaric oxygen. Why is this? It's because the hyperbaric oxygen is under pressure. And when oxygen is under pressure, it more readily is absorbed into the blood or through the brain barrier into the brain, or damaged brain, as in the case with my wife. So it is very helpful. Now here's the shocker, ladies and gentlemen. Now get this one, so you can relate to how important oxygen really is. Really is. Last week, after 4 years of not going to the MS hyperbaric oxygen chamber where we live, or half an hour away, my wife observed afterwards, she said, "Did you not notice that 3 of the people who were patients we used to know 4 years ago, and they're still there, and as far as we understand, they've been going 1 hour per week for the duration of the last 4 years while we haven't been there, because we're not MS patients, and at the time of COVID, they cut out the non-MS patients, said you couldn't go there anymore. And then even for the MS patients, stopped for a whole year, but then eventually they've let people back in. But last week, when I took my wife there for the first time in 4 years, look at this incredible observation. Remember, this is a hyperbaric oxygen chamber. She said, "Did you not notice those 3 patients we used to know, they haven't aged 1 iota. They look identical to what they looked like 4 years ago. Well, as we look at ourselves in the mirror and we look at all the workers there, they're all aged." Now that is fantastic to realize that just a little bit of extra oxygen could cause you to stay younger. Now, is there evidence of this in the past of the earth? There is. If you know your Bible, you'll find out that at one time the earth wasn't originally created the way how it is now. At one time there used to be exactly that, a hyperbaric oxygen chamber around the earth, which was caused because of a canopy of water around the earth, around about 100 miles up in the atmosphere. That's what scientists tell us. Bible scientists, they'll tell us, about 100 miles up in the atmosphere, the forces of gravity and centrifugal forces cancel each other out. So yes, you could have a layer of water probably about 20 meters thick, that high up in the atmosphere. And what that did was it kept the oxygen in under pressure. We're told by science that today the oxygen is just 1 atmosphere. Well, it's less than that the higher up you go, of course. But it used to be a lot bigger pressure. And that would mean it was much easier for people to get oxygen into their blood. And it would also mean they would have lived longer and aged a lot longer. as is evidenced by the Bible, which tells us in pre-flood times people lived to be 900 years old. And then as the hyperbaric chamber was dissolved at the time of the flood, people started losing their age, going down from 900 down to 600, 400, 200, and down to 120. And 3,000 years ago, by the time of King David, he says a man's years shall be 70 or 70 years. Now, I've related some of these facts in my books, and I would highly recommend people do get my Insights books, because they're not just talking about the Apocrypha. They have a lot of science in them, a lot of Hebrew history in them. They have a lot of information indeed that fill in the gaps. And that's the advantage of studying. If you study the right things long enough, you actually learn something. Whilst a lot of modern education is not really teaching anything. It's just filling you with lies and assumptions because they don't believe in God. So how can they possibly know what they're talking about? They don't. And as I related before, Solomon himself said, though a man think to know, he cannot know. If you don't know God and you don't know his word, you cannot know the truth about anything. You'll just end up being totally confused. But I want to put it to you, the importance of oxygen today. Since my wife has just gone back to the hyperbaric oxygen chamber, I also have one of our daughters who's 34. She has level 4 cancer. She's in serious condition. And she's getting treatment over in the States right now. But she also takes some oxygen, but she doesn't yet take hyperbaric oxygen. We're certainly going to suggest it to her. So that's pretty important, because normal oxygen helps, but hyperbaric oxygen puts the oxygen under pressure and it's absorbed into your body much quicker. Therefore has a much better effect. And as I related before, we have evidence from last week, evidence that they're not telling anybody, by the way, except if... Actually, I have a very good friend who is a famous doctor, the guy who started the hyperbaric oxygen chambers in the UK. And he's explained how, and his name is Dr. Philip B. James, by the way. He has a great book out there about oxygen, incredible book. A bit too expensive in my pocket, £108, but that's probably just Amazon, because they put the prices of books up, you know, if only a few people buy them. And that is sort of like a medical book, but incredible book there by Dr. Philip B. James, because he explains how the oxygen in this life is not lifted up. It's minimized. And when it should be the most important thing that we have for healing people. I pointed this out to people before, that in pre-flood times, or prior to around 3,500 years ago, there was no sickness on the planet at all. There was no sickness. Sickness came when we stopped reducing the amount of oxygen on the planet. If you know anything about oxygen, you'll find it kills bacteria. It kills sicknesses. We didn't have sickness on the planet until about 3,500 years ago, when we had hyperbaric oxygen on the planet. But after the flood, that gradually changed. People started living a lot less, and they started getting a lot sicker. So in modern times, unfortunately, people have gotten very, very sick. But a lot of it, you'll find out, Philip B. James explained, a lot of it is because we don't have enough oxygen. And summing it up, the serious level at which oxygen shouldn't descend below is 19% oxygen in the atmosphere. And unfortunately, in quite a few cities, it's below that level. So is it any surprising that people have all kinds of lung problems, blood problems, brain problems, all related to not having enough oxygen? Well, that's my speech today, a little bit about oxygen, how important it is. And I would like to encourage others to, if you have any kind of sickness at all, get oxygen. I do know that in hospitals, the doctors do often suggest oxygen for their patients, and there's a reason for it. But I'd say even better than the oxygen that the doctors and nurses would prescribe to you, especially if you get old and you have this infirmity or that, is get hyperbaric oxygen. If you can get hyperbaric oxygen, that's by far the best, because it'll make you a lot better. I've seen and seen these patients from MS patients. That's multiple sclerosis, a terrible disease, by the way. I've seen the hyperbaric oxygen really helping them. I can see it works. So I like to encourage my friends, if anybody has sickness or you're getting really old and you're having problems, try and get more oxygen. I myself am going to try and start taking oxygen. So far I've just been pushing it on my wife to help her because of her condition, and some of the times she does seem to be a lot better in some ways than she used to be. So I'm happy about that. But I'm thinking that maybe I should start taking some oxygen as well. And I would recommend it for especially those over 70 like myself. I'm 72 and I have some infirmities. I would recommend oxygen to give you more energy, more strength, and better health. Anyway, thanks for listening. I hope you found that interesting. It was that way, like I said, in pre-flood times when people used to have a lot more oxygen in the atmosphere and didn't have any sickness at all. That's how it should be, not the way it is. So thanks for listening, and I would like to encourage people to please do get hold of my new book, Secrets of ENOCH Insights, because it has some fantastic information in it. Like I said, I was just reading a couple of chapters today, and it's well worth the read because it's full of scientific information as well as history, Bible history, Hebrew history, you name it. It's got so much stuff there. It's even got paranormal and supernatural stuff in it as well. A lot of extensive commentary. So I'd encourage people, do get hold of my latest book, Secrets of Enoch Insights. It'll give you a lot of wisdom. It's based on the second book of Enoch. So, also I'd like to encourage you, do get all my other books. My first book was one on the paranormal, Out of the Bottomless Pit. Came out in 2014. The next one was ENOCH INSIGHTS, 2018. Then 2019, Jasher Insights, book 1 and 2, based on the Hebrew book Jasher. And then the next one was Book of Jubilees, 2020. And then 2021 came out Eden Insights, based on the Lost Books Adam and Eve. And then 2022 came out the Testament 12 Patriarchs Insights, based on the Testament 12 Patriarchs, which was originally written by the sons of Jacob about 3,000, something like 3,500 years ago. Just amazing information in that book, by the way. And the last one was Ezra's Insights, which is also an amazing book by the prophet Ezra. Fantastic. By the Hebrew prophet Ezra. Incredible. So I'd like to, and then I also came out with another book, which was Out the Bottomless Pit 2. So I've got a total of 11 books so far. And I'd like to encourage you, please do get the books. And if you'd like to know a lot more about these books, you should go into my brand new website, which I think you'll find amazing, which was not designed by me. Oh, I don't have that kind of talent. It was designed by my artistic daughter, Suzanne Strutt, who did all the artwork. And that website is www.insightsplural.publicationsingular.com or www.insightspublication.com. Don't miss going on that website. You'll see some amazing art there and amazing information along the lines of things you heard from me, on the paranormal, and interesting pictures about different things. And it also advertises all my books, and it shows a lot of the audios or videos we've made so far. I've made 250 videos so far on YouTube, but I've also been interviewed on other people's channels and recorded those recordings. You'll find that, some sampling of that, on the new website. And just for your reference one more time, the new website is www.insightspublication.com. Thanks so much for listening, everybody. Have a great day.